So we are now at that place where, yes, we're all tired. We're energized. We've had our photos. We are wanting to remember, though, what we have heard and what we are taking back home with us. So if you'll put up the next slide. That's right, I can do this. I've forgotten that I'm capable, though it's not. There you go. Here's a Menti, but it's also your table discussion and small group. What is one thing? There may be 10 things that you're thinking about, but if you choose to do 10 things, you may forget and do none, or be overwhelmed. What is one thing that you want to do differently, in addition, maybe subtraction, things that you want to, based on the things that you've heard in the presentations, in the coffee break, in the dinners, in the breakout sessions? What's one thing you want to do differently based on the COP, based on the conversations you've had? So take a minute and think, and then begin discussing with your neighbors. In a few short minutes, we'll actually bring you back together, and we'll ask for a couple of you to tell us some of your ideas of maybe something that you're going to try differently. Okay? So think and then talk. To hear someone from each, we'll start with each continent so we can get continental representation, right? So let's see. Continental let's have a Latin American person representing that continent. South America, can we represent South America? Somebody, yes, here? Who will tell us one thing that they want to do different? Keep it short, please.
No. Bueno, hemos aprendido que necesitamos seguir el lineamiento del programa y para contextualizar, iniciar un proceso de diálogo para que las cosas salgan bien y tenga fundamentación.
We have learned that we have to continue this process and to contextualize it. We have to do it slowly and maintaining a constant dialogue so that we can keep the identity of the program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. All right, someone representing a different continent. Do I see any hands? Nobody? Come on. Oh, we have one here. Mark, behind you.
Yeah, we said we're going to research more on how to work with the combat trauma healing.
Combat trauma healing.
With our military and child soldiers and all that. And then we are going to be on her every month until the teens program is out, the handbook. So, thank you.
Let's all pray for Margie, because everyone wants to say the same thing. A different continent represented, right here.
Africa. It's going back to the drawing board. See what we did wrong, correct it. What we did right, continue doing it. and to be in constant contact with others who are already in the program.
Thank you. Networking, community, right? Another. I don't know which continent Mark represents, but he will be his own continent.
Thank you. Anyway, if I may share something that's not so much what I will be doing, but something that's directly happened already because of our time. My church is very much sensitized and is an excellent, if in its infancy, domestic abuse team, and I'm a member of that. But we have, of course, a very complicated issue at the moment. And I didn't feel as though it was going in the right direction. So I wrote an email and I scrapped it following your presentation, Phil, Baraka's, and Carol's. And I then sent an email. I left for straight after your presentations, rewrote the email saying I believe this is the way ahead. And the experts in our group and also the pastor basically have taken that on verbatim. So I just want to say that this time has already made the difference in the lives of a family here in the Philadelphia area.
Thank you. Thank you. I have time for, I know we haven't hit 7 continents, but I have time for maybe 2 more, and then we will change to the next subject. I have a hand in the back. I can't see who it is, but raise it high and speak loud when the microphone comes.
Okay, East Africa?
Yeah, well, I guess Africa's getting some attention, but that's okay. Go ahead. First come.
This is something I feel is for each and every one of us. Yes, we talked about the teens and how much they put on a mask to appear all is well. But I think it's not only the teens, but even us. Sometimes we go through a lot and we put up appearances that all is well. But I think I am learning that I don't have to put on a mask, deal with the issue, and then move on, face it, and then put on the real you. Otherwise, it will be hard to talk to the youth to first deal with themselves and do not mask who they are when we are facing the same. This doesn't only apply to the youth, but all of us.
All of us. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any hands up. So, make sure you do write down the one thing that you will do differently and check it in 2 weeks. See if you've made any steps yet. Dr. Langberg, please come and give us some concluding reflections that you want us to take home.
Well, it's been quite a full 3 days, yes? And we've done our usual light topics. The destruction of family, the destruction of relationships through things like war and domestic violence and abuse of all kinds, the destruction of nations, and we have appropriately lamented. We are a community of practice in destructive things. We are also a community of hope. We started out talking about what family is, that it's a group of servants joined together to serve each other, and that you and I are called in our various families of many kinds to bear fruit in the likeness of Jesus Christ. And anything that does not bear his DNA, does not look like him, is not family as God designed it, which covers all the things that we were talking about: divisions and hatred, abuse and violence, manipulation, deceit, exploitation, all those cancers that led to the sacrifice of blood on our behalf. and are to have no place in any family of any kind ever. Such things destroy the dwelling of God in the Spirit that has been bought by blood. So what might this look like in the flesh? In hard times? Hard times that last for decades. As is my custom, I close our time together with a story. This particular one is a part of my story, my family story. But before giving you a glimpse into that story, just hear again this one everlasting foundational truth. Our real work is not trauma healing. Our real work is not our job or our marriage or our accomplishments or outcomes. Our real work, ever and always as Christ followers, is maintaining our relationship with Him above all else. Every arena of our lives is to be dominated by the passion that Paul stated so well. We make it our goal to please Him. In marriage, there are two voices. It's a duet. And each of those voices is different from the other. Each voice tends to think it's got it right in terms of the melody, and probably needs to be the dominant one, and heeded. But the art of marriage actually learns in learning, first of all, how to listen to the composer before we sing the duet, but also learning how to listen to each of the voices, not just our own, and learning together how to weave something into a harmonious whole where neither voice is lost due to abuse of power or emphasis or intensity. The goal of the duet together is ever and always to give glory to God. A duet in music only works when it follows fixed rules of harmony. So to harmonize something means obviously to create a pleasing combination of two tones or more so they fit together. Another word for harmony is actually reconcile. So the music doesn't work if it's not pleasing, if it grates, if it fails to follow the rules of harmony. Harmony only results when the two parts of the duet are reconciled to what the composer has written and to each other. So each part, though unique, is always working toward harmony. Sometimes one voice sings, sometimes the other. Sometimes they sing different notes at the same time. Other times they sing the same note. But the duet is only beautiful if both parts heed the composer and the other person as well. So even if you have a short solo sometimes in your marriage, you have to do it preparing the way for the other voice. Each enables the other under the direction of the composer to sing more beautifully. Therefore, the trio, the composer and the two voices, is glorious and brings glory to our God. If you want a splendid musical example of these ideas, listen to Bach's two-voice inventions. My parents were given a difficult duet to sing. Phil asked me if I was going to cry, and I said I didn't think so, but I think I was wrong. Anyway, both voices were hard. They sang it well. It was a thing of beauty, but it was not easy. The complexity of it was a thing of beauty only because both of them played to please the composer. My father was what we call in this country a country club boy, basically born with a silver spoon in his mouth, which means he came from privilege and from a historic and well-respected family. His family settled Charleston, West Virginia, which is the capital of the state. And if you recall, when we spoke some years ago on systemic abuse, I told the story of how his family helped Booker T. Washington, who was the son of a slave, learn how to read. He was a graduate of Virginia Military Institute, and he went on to become a pilot and a colonel in the United States Air Force. He stood 6'4.5". Now we know where I came from. He had red hair, and he was a superb athlete. It literally was a thing of beauty to watch him play tennis or ride a horse. At the age of 24, he entered World War II and was stationed in North Africa. And while there, he got encephalitis. And he was flown out to England, and they put his best friend on the plane with him because they expected him to die en route. Obviously, he did not. He recovered, and 11 days before his 25th birthday, crawled into the cockpit of a C-47 in the lead plane and headed to Normandy to drop paratroopers, many of whom would never return. He came home with medals he never displayed. I didn't know about them for years. He rose in the ranks. He became a wing commander. He did air refueling. We moved. I had been to 10 schools by the time I finished my 12th year of school. And at the age of 42, he was retired from the Air Force due to a debilitating illness no one could name, which slowly eroded his life until he died in the nursing home where he had spent his last years. He died in 1993. He had been progressively ill since 1961. My mother was the youngest of 4 girls. They were abandoned by their alcoholic father in the 1920s in America during the Depression, when my mother was 4 years old. Her last memory of her father was wrapping her arms around his leg, begging him not to leave. Pulled her off. He picked up his suitcase, and he walked out the door. Having cleaned out the bank account, taking the one car, and leaving them with nothing. They lost everything. She grew up in a very tiny town in the mountains of West Virginia and had a high school diploma. She was offered a full scholarship to a university to study voice, but couldn't go because there was not enough money for books or food. She left home in her late teens for the city to work as a legal secretary, where, thanks to a blind date, she eventually became the colonel's lady. They traveled, they saw the world, they had 2 children, while my father rose in position and authority. And then, when my mother was 38 years old, her husband was let go from his employment. He was jobless. He was without financial security due to an unknown illness. It was later assumed that the illness was the result of encephalitis during World War II. And over the course of the next 32 years of my life and theirs, I had a front row seat as I watched my parents learn from the composer himself how to play the parts assigned to them. 32 years later, my mother had to pick herself up and learn how to sing solo until her death in 2013. So how does someone who is healthy and only 38 years old learn to care for somebody who's sick and do it graciously and without bitterness? How does one who is quick-moving wait while a former athlete with a brilliant mind tries to tie his shoes or button his shirt while he still can, waiting for him without impatience and irritability? How does one whose mind is not clouded by drugs learn to give space for slow thinking and stuttering speech from a former commander of men and bases? Without sighing, without shifting? How does one whose body is not dying learn to spend time day after day, year after year in a nursing home where many bodies are dying when she thought these were supposed to be the best years of their lives? How do two such divergent melodies play together harmoniously? How does the healthy voice not crush or silence the sick, slow, hard to understand voice? How does the healthy voice keep from running off and playing her melody alone or with somebody else? How does the sick voice work to find energy within himself to still speak into a relationship and stay connected when energy is so sparse? And how does the sick voice keep from demanding selfishly, whining pitifully, playing sour notes because of his lot, and still remarkably maintaining his renowned dry sense of humor? Those melodies clearly had the possibility of making a lot of noise together, rather than beautiful harmony. Bach was a composer and conductor. He cued everybody in. He noticed at once whenever somebody made a mistake, it was, after all, his music. He held diverse voices together and had harmony as a result. A difficult song can only be sung if we truly know and understand and listen to the composer. It's the composer who tells us when to sing. It's the composer who will point out our mistakes and help us take corrective measures when our voice is too loud or too soft, too grating or too absent. It is the composer who knows how to bring unity from diversity. My parents learned how to play an extremely difficult duet because they both learned how to listen and know and understand the composer. Whatever song has been assigned to us within the various families that we exist in, including the church family, it can only be learned in the same way. Do you and I really think that we can teach others how to play a beautiful duet if we ourselves have quit playing the one assigned to us in some fashion? How can we teach another to practice if we don't practice? How can we teach someone to play with a slow left hand when we haven't learned ever to adapt ourselves to another, but are continually asking others to adapt to us? How can we teach others how to listen for the nuances in others' parts when we ourselves are so absorbed in our own part we have no idea what the other person is singing? How can we teach others that our God has indeed broken down the walls of hostility if we live entrenched in anger and bitterness toward those in our various relationships, families, tribes, or nations? We must be what we teach. Our God has said so. He also said that whatever part we've been assigned, it is the approval of the composer that matters, none other. And in our parts, anything that detracts from the beauty of the glory of the composer must be that which gets our primary attention. Because you see, though unseen, our composer is ever present, and we are not to sing to the audience. We are not to sing to a fellow musician. We are not to sing for ourselves. We are to sing, seeking the approval of the one who wrote the music and who alone knows how it should sound. It is a privilege to be given music written by the composer. You and I are co-laborers with him. He wrote the music, and he has asked us to play it as he intended it to be played. He has invited us to come alongside him, to be his yoke fellows, to sing with him, to labor with him to produce the creation of beauty and harmony that he envisioned for this world in its beginning. And we cannot do his work unless we follow his notes, the Word of God, and are governed by his Spirit. You and I cannot sing difficult parts in our homes or our churches or our communities unless we know the mind of the composer. We cannot sing his music unless we follow his direction, and it is only as we sit at the feet of the master composer that we will sing the music intended for us and in a way that truly reflects the beauty of the music of God himself. I also firmly believe that unless you and I learn how to sit at the feet of the composer regarding our own relationships, we will not be effective in teaching others how to sing in the places assigned to them. And finally, something else will happen when we sing well. And it's something that I have known, except recently has become so startlingly vivid to me. We have talked through the years about power and that God gave us power to bless. We talked when we started on Tuesday about the fact that our relationships and our families are servants joined together to bless. That's our purpose. That was our original purpose. It's still our purpose. But listen to these very familiar words. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Bless his holy name. We are called to bless others, but we are called to bless the God who needs absolutely nothing. You ever thought about your life, your marriage, your parenting, your friendships, the work in ministry and trauma healing, being done so as to bless the heart of the Almighty God? Do you think we bless God if we batter a spouse? Do you think we bless God if we overwork an employee? Or abuse someone verbally or spiritually or sexually or financially or any other way? Do you think we bless God if we speak with rancor about the other gender or race or tribe or community of faith? Such things do not bless God, they break his heart. So yes, receive and bask in God's blessing on you. It is limitless. There is no end. And yes, take from the blessing that he pours out on you and pour it out on all those in your life and world. Use your power to bless. But never forget, oh my soul, to bless God himself with your life, hidden and public. We are his workmanship, you and I. We are his composition. Who we are in relationship is to be an expression of who he is, an expression of the voice of the creator composer. He heard the music first within himself, and he articulated it in us. Relationship is a manifestation, a creation of something within the Godhead. In us, God has in some measure reproduced himself. Let us be those who reflect him. Let us be those who bless the homes, bless the neighbors, bless the churches, bless our tribes, bless our nations. But ultimately, may we be those who bless God himself. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Bless his holy